Yo, yo, yo. What's going on? Checking in, man. Seeing what's going on with everybody out there. It's raining. It's raining right now. You know where I'm at. But I kind of had a. So look, right. And I talked about this earlier too. Like now that I see, that I left a lot of stuff alone, and people see that I'm not dependent on them, right? Because like I said, people, man, like when you don't need them no more, like people, like they'll take that some type of way, like you get what I'm saying? And I noticed that I've been having probably more problems now that I'm clean, and I guess that's a test. I guess that's God's way of testing me, seeing what I relapse, you know, and like I said, I originally stopped. I know my son wouldn't want me to be down here, depressed like that, hooked on drugs like that, letting myself go. He wouldn't like that, And not only that, like I said, I've been through a whole lot, and I feel like I got a story to tell, and if I can just at least reach one person with any message that I got, shit, I'm cool with it. I ain't perfect. And that's probably where people, you know, be thinking that I am, and I ain't. I mess up too. My lips is chapped, my lips dry, but yeah, man, like I had to contain myself today, and it showed that I had a lot of control, not for me not to raise my voice, and like I said, I'm finna be done dealing with certain people. You feel me? I ain't got time for that, man. I'm too old for that. You get what I'm saying? I'm 37. Thank God I ain't let a motherfucker stress me that much where I look old or my hair falling out. Is it falling out yet? Nope. But still, it is what it is. I still, I still smoke weed. Y'all see, I still drink. My little, my little cough syrup. I ain't perfect. You get what I'm saying? I'm still working on a lot of stuff within myself. But at least at this point I know like I cut the BS out, right? I'm focused now. To be honest, like I'm mad that it took me so long till this year for me to even get my shit together. You feel like but it is what it is. At least it happened. Some people they ain't even get a chance to make it that long to make that decision to change or to stop. Some people they didn't let people trick them out they position. Man, to me, man, it ain't even worth it. Stop dealing with people, man. If they ain't on what you on, man, just stop dealing with them. I mean, it was crazy. Like people act like you don't have the right to be happy. I always say that. Like, how somebody gonna tell you how you supposed to feel? Like, man, like, so you telling me that like I don't have the right to be happy? Like, I have to go through this with you? No, And some people will never get it together. Never. That's their problem. Ain't my problem. I'm focused on me, my kids. Today I had a situation also, right? My oldest daughter, Rihanna. Well, she lives in North Carolina, right? Right now. She is 18. She'll be 19 September 17th, right? Okay, let me let me backtrack, right? Man, probably about 10 years ago. Probably about 10 years. Some of y'all know I had shared custody of Rihanna. I would have Rihanna for a week. Her mom would get her for a week, but her mom was living with her mom, right? So my first baby mama, like she never had her own place. She never had a job really. She, we all make a mistake in choosing that first one, right? Okay, cool. My baby mama signed over her rights. She signed over guardianship to her mom, right? Now, mind you, I didn't sign over my rights, so they ain't got nothing to do with me. But they end up moving out of town, right? Now I could have got them in trouble. I could have, reported to the police. I wouldn't know that. But so they move out there, and what ended up happening was, so remember I told you my baby mom signed over. Excuse me. Remember I told you my baby mama signed over guardianship to her mom. So what had happened was her mom would be at work, but my baby mama would be watching her kids. Now my baby mama got 3 kids, 3 different baby daddies. I'm her first baby daddy, right? And I guess there was some abuse going on in the house, but basically, the the people, when you ain't treating kids right, they came, they took my baby mama to jail, they took her mama to jail, and they removed the kids out the house, right? Now, my daughter's the oldest. The other kids ain't even 18 yet, I don't think, right? Now, from what they say, right, okay, so since my daughter had got taken, the other kids returned back in the house. My daughter's the only one that hasn't returned. But now my daughter is 18, right? 19. So now she can't, go back there, I guess. I'm still not, filled in, right? So basically, I had a court hearing today over the phone with them in North Carolina, right? And basically, but my daughter wasn't there, and I'm basically telling the judge, well, first they waited for me. They made me wait to even speak, right? And I'm just listening, right? How these people just do these kids, man, in these situations, right? I be patient. I let them talk. And, I finally, start talking. And I'm like, man, I ain't seen my daughter in about 10 years. I tell them, they moved from here. They wasn't supposed to. It was a court order in place. They don't care nothing about that, right? So I'm like, it's always been a problem, my daughter being over there. That's how I had shared custody. I was trying to remove my daughter from that situation, and the conversation just, like, it didn't go how it's supposed to, right? But basically, let me fill y'all in. So basically, I told you my daughter is 18, but basically they saying that she's 18, but she don't have the brain of an 18-year-old, and that she don't have the brain capability to take care of herself. Now, I don't know what they was doing over there, right? When I used to have my daughter, I never had a problem, with her. Never. All the stuff that I used to be hearing, how they were saying how she was acting, never had a problem, right? But I started to have, when she moved, and I started to hear, the different stuff that was going on, and I'm like, I said from the beginning, I said my daughter was acting out because she wanted her dad, right? Now, I done lost a son. My daughter couldn't come to the funeral. That's her brother. She know Kyriel. They the 2 oldest, right? Couldn't go to her brother's funeral, so they saying on the thing she just got out the hospital, and they rescheduled it for 2 weeks, and they saying basically, I got to file. I got to file with their court system, and I'm telling them, like, I'm all the way in Milwaukee. How that supposed to happen, right? They don't care, I'm like, but I was mad, Hold on. I was a little mad. Hold on, y'all. I was a little mad, right? The court date, in a couple of weeks again. But I'm finna try to get her. You know, this ain't my first time even going through this, trying to get her in the first place, right? But you know, it's cool. Everything happens for a reason, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and get my baby, you know. But you know, my thing, her family, like I'm like, would I be wrong if I get her and I don't let her have communication with that side, because they just negative. Like, just think they had her all this time, right? And they didn't, obviously weren't doing something right. How come none of my other kids, like, I didn't raise them perfect? I'm all in their life, right? Man, and it's crazy that, you know, dudes got to go through this, right? You know, it is what it is, man. But, you know, I ain't gonna give up on my daughter. I can't, you know, because shit, my mama didn't give up on, you know, on us. So, you know, I gotta pay it forward. That's my baby. That's my firstborn, Rihanna. You get what I'm saying? So, yeah. But I just wanted to come and tell, you know, I wanted to come and vent for a second, right? Because you know, that had really got to me earlier, right? That kind of had got to me earlier. So I was like, you know, I was kind of in a different place, but I calm myself down. Like, I'm learning new techniques, right? You know, I'm 37. I'm becoming an old man. I now weigh 190. Like I said, this is the most I've ever weighed in my whole life. You know, probably got a Gucci Man belly. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, man. So, man, y'all comment, man. What y'all think? What y'all think? I'm pretty sure I know what y'all gonna say, right? You know, get your baby. You know, I know how the system is. I ain't never been in the system, but I know how it is, right? And I know, man, the system, they don't play fair, right? Hopefully when I get her, I ain't gotta work, because I don't want to bring them people in my business, you know. And not only that, I didn't want to bring my daughter in the household and then something end up happening that she bring to my household that wasn't in my house before. You get what I'm saying? I still gotta protect my other kids, right? You know, but I still got a responsibility to Rihanna. Y'all comment what y'all think I should do, man. Comment what y'all think I should do. If I get her, would I be wrong for not letting her contact her family? What y'all think? Y'all let me know. All right, man, y'all have a blessed day. Remember, sobriety is worth everything. Your sanity is worth everything. But your life is worth even more, right? All right, y'all. Stay prayed up.